Don Kennedy from Wallingford. You guys, your leadership fast-tracked the bill. Do you guys still support the leadership?
The leadership fast-tracked the bill?
Yeah, I mean, without discussion, without anything, you just ran it through.
Yeah. Every piece in the bill went through the committee process. And if you look at New York State, they did it all within a couple
No,
of
I don't care about New York.
Well, I'm saying.
I live in Connecticut.
Right. So I don't think we fast-tracked it as compared. Well, we spent 3 months on it, and every part of the bill went through. Every part of the bill went through a public hearing, a vetted public hearing.
Where?
Up in Capitol.
Get an e-cert sign? No.
But every part of the bill, the public health part, the mental health part, the gun restriction part, the school safety part, went through public hearings.
So
once the bill was written, it did not have any discussion.
The final bill did not go through one.
So the question is, you guys voted for it. Are you now going to support your leadership?
Okay, let's talk about the process for bills. The bills can go through committees, all right? So what you do is, if you submit a bill, the gun bill, like 1076, or any one of these, when they're submitted, they get assigned to committee, there's a public hearing. What they did was, after Sandy Hook, they say, we're going to establish 3 committees: mental health, school safety, and gun issue. They established those 3 public hearings. That went on for hours. You can shake your head, but it went on for hours. Every one of these topics were brought up at that committee. Those hearings went on they were broadcast, they went to different districts, and they were 12, 14-hour long hearings, one side and the other. Then the second thing was with 1076, went through committee. But what happens is, an e-cert bill doesn't mean that leadership got in the back room, put a bill together and threw it out. 99% of the bills that are voted on at the Capitol, the final language never has a public hearing.
Like Obamacare.
Sure?
Like Obamacare.
Well,
Vote for the bill and then you'll find out what's in it.
I can't talk federal because I can't tell you.
No, but I mean, that's what you guys did.
No, that's not what we did at all. Not even close. I got to be honest. I admit when some stuff goes wrong. I have no problem with it. But when you have bills, they go through the committee process. When they come out of committee process, a normal bill, forget about this one. You have committee process, you say you don't like it, you say you change this, you say don't do this, you say don't do that. The committee gets together and says, listen, this is what this person said. What do you think of that? It gets changed. Then the committee votes it out. Now, it's a different bill that already was at a public hearing. Then it goes to the House or the Senate. Senators and reps file all sorts of different amendments. And it may get amended again. No public hearing. Then it gets voted out when it gets voted out. So there's 99.9% of the bills that eventually become law, that final language never has a public hearing. What you're looking for are, did the topics have a public hearing such that you got enough information for the public on each one of the issues? Whether you agree with the final outcome of the bill, it's not the question. The question is, did each one of those topics receive enough of the public hearing? You could argue they did, they could argue they didn't, but I would tell you, every one of those committees had a public hearing. 1076 went on for 12 or 13 hours, 16 and a half hours. Every topic in that bill did receive a public hearing. It gets e-certed because they combined 3 committees into one. And there was no one committee that said, here's a bill that we put out. So if you don't have that process, there's no chairman who stands up in the Senate circle or in the House floor and says, Mr. President, I have with me Senate Bill 1995 or whatever, 1160. So what happens with this, it was e-certed for that reason. Not to skirt, not to there was a public hearing. You can disagree within the bill, and I respect that. But I do want to make it clear, because that's been a misnomer that's out there, that we'd have a public hearing on these topics. And we did. So I hear what you're saying, this other stuff, but not that one.
The mental health provision is going to take a year before you get your report back from the task force.
February 2014.
Right. So not quite a year.
But a year.
Months. Okay.
Well taken.
And then it's going to take, what, another 3-4 months before you do anything about it?
No, it will come out next session.
Yeah,
a mental health bill will come out, and the session ends May 1st, or May, whatever.
So why didn't you do the same thing with the gun bill?
Because the mental health bill, if we make changes, it affects the amount of money we get from the federal government. And we have to get insurance coverage for certain things. We couldn't negotiate all the mandatory insurance coverage, and we couldn't be sure if we pass something, if the federal government's going to say, hey, that's a new item, we don't cover it. So what we wanted to do is to see what we could do on the mental health, to get tougher on a lot of these mental health. HIPAA, for instance, are there any, you can't tell people's status, so if they get into an issue and they say we want to kill somebody, you know, as a lawyer, if you say to me, you're going to rob a bank, I'm obligated to go tell the police. You said to me, you robbed the bank, I can't tell anybody. With healthcare professionals, if you say you're going to kill somebody in the future, they're not obligated to tell anybody. So we need to look at those issues to figure out how we can get around the HIPAA law without jeopardizing money to the state. So those are a bunch of issues we need to look at that need a lot more work working with some of our agencies to figure it out. So you can argue that, and I point still well taken, that it moved too fast. You know, point well taken. And I don't necessarily disagree with some of that. But I will say that either way, either that was going to come out fast or what came out fast, that was the bill that we passed. Something was going to happen. I know you don't like it, and I appreciate that.
I just moved here from Georgia.